Star Wars, baby, it's Star Wars. I'm trying to do my best Bill Murray impersonation. Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This time to my genre series and my top 10. However, I'm not doing a top 10 today, I'm actually doing a top 8 because there's not 10 Star Wars films to talk about. And with the newest film, The Last Jedi, coming out in theaters in a couple of weeks, aka I'm pretty sure it's next week, I want to talk about how I rank these prior movies and talk a little bit about them. So what I want to do today is just rank each of these films. I'm a pretty big Star Wars fan, so much so that I have a Star Wars laptop. And yes, this is a HP laptop. It's a Galactic Empire right here. We got some Sith stuff. There's even like just the Death Star in the background, a Stormtrooper. Yeah, I really like Star Wars, and I'm really excited to see this. Not as much as probably most people. I really like Star Wars. It's probably my first franchise that I really fell in love with as a kid growing up. And I mean, I really got into it in 1999, obviously when The Phantom Menace came out. And I was a young boy. I was only about 7 years old. I was 7 years old when that came out. And I was pretty hooked on it, and I was pretty hooked on Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. But now that I'm obviously a lot older, I can look back at all of them in retrospect and rank them properly in an objective sense and also in a subjective sense. What I like about these films is I can rewatch all of them. I even like parts of the prequels that a lot of people don't. So let's stop jonesing around and let's talk about my Star Wars top 8 picks, going from 8 to 1. Alright, number 8 for me is a part of the Star Wars prequels, and that would be Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Now this film is not the best, however, it's not the worst either. I mean, you know, it's the worst in this series, but it's not the worst film ever. There's some really redeemable moments of this. Ewan McGregor does a fantastic job, in my opinion, as Obi-Wan Kenobi. We get the introduction of Hayden Christensen. There's some fun scenes with him, but for the most part, it's really awkward between him and Padme. Especially on the scenes of Naboo, it's just really strange. You get to see Anakin's descent into the dark side happen a little bit more with his mother Shmi getting killed by Tusken Raiders. He kills a lot of Tusken Raiders in this movie. But the coolest parts of these movies, at least Episode 2 to me, is Count Dooku and the whole entire arena sequence when the Jedi arrive and save Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme. That's one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. And also you get to see Jango, I almost said Django Unchained. You get to see Jango Fett get killed by Mace Windu in a pretty damn excellent display of craftsmanship on Mace Windu's behalf. Besides that, you see Yoda for the first time fight, and he is just a squirrel pretty much. He's jumping all over the place. I mean, look at the guy. I mean, but you see him in all his CGI gloriness. The CGI doesn't hold up as much these days, and also it just seems like one of the weakest parts of the trilogy. And so let's move on from number 8 to my number 7, which is also in the prequel trilogy, and it's actually the first one that got me introduced to Star Wars back in 1999. Prior to 1999, I watched the original trilogy, and I really loved those movies, so I was really excited to see this, and I actually did not expect, at age 7, I was probably more enthralled with the epicness of it, because I wasn't old enough to really understand and comprehend what's going on. All the trade negotiations that were going to occur in Episode 1. The thing with Episode 1 is there's a lot of hiccups here. We got Jar Jar Binks, we got Watto, we even got Newt Gunray. They are all sounding like kind of racial stereotypes in a way, and also it just seems a little mismatched. There's a lot of trade negotiations and political problems, which I actually don't have a problem with myself. A lot of people do for some reason, but they also explain midichlorians a little bit in this. Qui-Gon Jinn, Liam Neeson does a fantastic job as Qui-Gon Jinn, although he's the one who set up the entire pretty much downfall of the Republic and then the rise of Darth Vader and whatnot. But that, I mean, we need to start, obviously. My favorite part of this film is actually Darth Maul. It comes to no surprise for most people. Darth Maul, and that last fight with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn is actually probably one of the best. It's definitely the best Star Wars lightsaber fight in the prequels. It's probably one of my favorite Star Wars fights of all time. It's super epic. We got, you know, the soundtrack. I've showed you in my top 10 scores. I have John Williams in the background right here. I really love that score, especially the duel of the fates that are going on between Darth Maul, Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan, and it's a fantastic scene, and it's probably the best of the prequel trilogy with that. And that alone beat Attack of the Clones because I like it so much, and I also love Darth Maul. Even in the Clone Wars series, I really enjoy him. Alright, so let's move on from Episode 1 to Episode 3, which is my number 6. Yes, the prequels are all in the bottom of the barrel. I mean, the ones before it are going to be a little bit better, and also the two after are also just, in my opinion, objectively and subjectively better. But Revenge of the Sith, we see the further downfall of Hayden Christensen into Darth Vader. You see Anakin turning to the dark side more often. You see this Clone War has already unfolded. There's Jedi and Jedi Knights and generals all over the galaxy with a bunch of clone troopers that you saw in Attack of the Clones. This is their army. This is the Republic's army fighting against the Separatists. What you're realizing is, oh hey, Chancellor Palpatine's actually the Sith Lord. He's the bad guy. He's the guy who's actually controlling all of this. I mean, it's pretty obvious from Episode 1 if you really pay attention. But he is the Emperor. He is the leader of the dark side now. And pretty much he's taken control with Order 66, getting rid of most of the Jedi. Anakin finishing off all the younglings at the temple. Wee. That's not a good PR move, Anakin. But what I like about this film is the last fight on Mustafar between Obi-Wan and Anakin really reflects their relationship. Now, despite Padme and Anakin's relationship, when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about the acting. Natalie Portman and Hayden Christensen, I don't really see the chemistry there. But when I see Obi-Wan and Hayden Christensen fight, they do a fantastic job of really betraying that inner struggle between trying to save the Jedi Order and also just defeating it. And it's kind of heartbreaking to see what's going to go down. But some of the parts are really hysterical. Obviously, when Darth Vader actually becomes Darth Vader, when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about in the suit. You get a really hysterical James Earl Jones. No, it's there for a good effect, but it's definitely it's definitely not practiced well, and it's not that good. But anyway, that is what my last three are: 8, 7, and 6. Those are my picks for Star Wars, and the prequels are good if you just want to enjoy them. Just don't do anything else with them, because I mean I don't hate the prequels. I enjoyed them. By the way, I like to point that out to everyone. I don't hate the prequels. They're actually pretty fun if I just watch them. But I can't take them too seriously sometimes. So let's move on from there to our number 5 pick. My number 5 pick is actually one of the newest in the franchises, and it's The Force Awakens. And this is the cool collector's edition I got. It came in my work a little bit. But anyways, I really enjoyed The Force Awakens, even though, yes, it was a reimagining of A New Hope. I thought this was a fantastic, really reintroduction from the prequels that we had to the Star Wars universe that's 1977 created with A New Hope. And I really love The Force Awakens for this. It has a lot of new characters and a lot of new storylines. Although I will say that a lot of the characters I don't feel particularly strong about, because I don't think they really brought out the character development in these movies, at least in this one. And even in Rogue One, which I'll talk about later, but that's actually just a side story. But I hope when the new movie comes out, The Last Jedi, that they actually give me a little bit more character development where I care about each of these characters. Because honestly, besides Han Solo, which, spoilers, doesn't end well with him, I honestly didn't really care much about any of the other characters. And it's because I think I already had an established relationship with Han Solo. But I really enjoyed a lot of the new set design, a lot of the visuals. J.J. Abrams did a fantastic job, in my opinion, even though South Park makes fun of him, and pretty much most of the world makes fun of him for pretty much re-energizing The New Hope in a way. But I really enjoy it. There's really awesome sequences in this movie. Lots of lens flares, as J.J. Abrams would have. Rey, Poe, and all the crew. Kylo Ren does a fantastic job. I actually really like Kylo Ren in the first act, before he really takes off his helmet and starts acting like a child again. That's the thing I don't like about it. I'm like, oh, well, I can definitely tell you're related to Anakin. I can definitely tell you're related to Hayden Christensen, because you are just constantly whining like a little bitch. But anyway, that's enough of that. I really enjoyed Force Awakens. I'm really excited for obviously, Episode 8, The Last Jedi. I actually really enjoy this film. I haven't seen it in a while, and I actually have been meaning, and I've actually had an itch to watch it again. That way I can catch it again. So yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite movies of Star Wars franchises. My number 5 pick, The Force Awakens. The next movie on my list is actually in the original trilogy, and it's actually the last one of the trilogy, and that's Return of the Jedi. I really enjoy this film, especially the very last act. The last act of the movie is probably the best part. When I say the last act, I'm mostly talking about Luke and Darth Vader's relationship. Now, there's some silly things that George Lucas you can started telling. He went a little bit overboard, especially with the Ewoks and the celebration, and then Jabba's palace, which is actually pretty fun for the most part. Except it seems like a lot of wasted time when Luke could easily go in there and rescue Han, Leia, and the crew, and Lando as well. But I really enjoyed Return of the Jedi despite its criticisms. It's a fantastic film, especially like I said, the last act. There's some really fun sequences on Endor. I actually remember harkening back to my days when I was a kid when I used to collect all the action figures all the time. Unfortunately, I sold them. I got a lot of money from them, and I opened them up like a noob. But I was a kid. I wanted to play with the action figures. I want to take a little time out, and I really wish I actually saw the episode that was between this and the other one, Shadow of the Empire, which is a great, fantastic video game and actually a pretty good book. Bridge gap. But I really enjoyed Return of the Jedi. I think there's a lot of good aspects of it. Luke, you can tell, is so much matured. He has really grasped the concept of the Force, and he has a lot of control over it. And you just see how powerful, and also just how much of his character is developed in this film. Han Solo seems like he's sleeping a little bit. I really enjoy Harrison Ford in the first two films. When I'm talking about that, I'm talking about A New Hope and obviously Empire Strikes Back. In this one, he seems like he's just like, oh yeah, I'm there. Yeah, I'm Han Solo. I'm kind of getting bored with the Star Wars stuff. Despite that, Leia does a fantastic job as well. You see the relationship between Han and Leia blossom a little bit more, but also you see the maturity between Luke and Leia as they realize they're brother and sister. And if we're going to get to Empire Strikes Back, there's a reason they're brother and sister. So that's all I'm going to have to talk about with Return of the Jedi. I enjoy the film a lot. So now let's move on to number 4. Alright, the next one on my list is actually the newest film in the Star Wars franchise universe, and that is Star Wars: A Rogue One Story. I really enjoyed this film. I thought this was one of the how to explain this? They only had a limited time, pretty much, between 3 and 4. I mean, obviously there was a lot of time in between, but this is really setting up that first scene in A New Hope. And so it seems like it's 20 minutes of a movie. However, it is a really great story of a lot of great characters that you won't see again because obviously they all perish. Spoilers. But they do a fantastic job of just trying to reinvent the wheel and also just get us interested back into Star Wars. I thought this was a very great and grounded story that doesn't need any more explanation besides itself as a film. I think Gareth Edwards does a fantastic job. I'm going to have to look at this. Right, Gareth, though. I said it wrong. He did a fantastic job of really just concreting a story that really doesn't need anything else to talk about it. You just goes naturally into Episode 4, which is the first Star Wars. And actually, speaking of the end, Jesus Christ, that Darth Vader scene in the end of this movie is just one of the most epic and just brutal things you've ever seen. And I think it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. However, I do often question and talk to my friends about this. Like, how did he go from that to the more laissez-faire fight with Obi-Wan, where he's like, oh, you're a lot less powerful. I always just say, hey, they're both very powerful Jedi and Sith, and so they probably just cancel each other out and got rid of all the fancy moves. I will just blindly take my eyes away from the obviously lack of technology and lack of really just choreograph. But I don't care. I think that's great. I'm really genuinely scared of Darth Vader. This is the Darth Vader we should know and love. It's that stuff in between 3 and 4 that really made him, pretty much the menace of the galaxy, and being scared of him is pretty much the thing to do. This is also just a fantastic film. It has some good comedy in it. It has some characters. However, some of them are forgettable. Some of them are actually really endearing. And I really enjoyed this movie as well. And I thought a lot of the set designs were beautiful and gorgeous. And honestly, I'm really excited that they actually did this. And I'm really excited for this story opening up pretty much a slew of Star Wars independent films. So Obi-Wan potentially, maybe a Boba Fett movie, I don't know. We'll see. I really enjoyed this movie. This is my number 3 pick. And now we're going to talk about the top 2, and I wonder what they could be. My top 2 are number 2 being Star Wars A New Hope. It's the first Star Wars movie that we've ever got. It established this entire franchise, this entire universe that we know and love. You get introduced to Leia and Darth Vader near the beginning. You also get introduced to Luke, C-3PO, and R2-D2, which I haven't talked about, which is a crime, because they're in all these movies, which is really funny, because there's really no characters who are in every single movie. R2-D2 and C-3PO, they get the plans from Princess Leia, who gets captured by Darth Vader. You have this awesome introduction that Spaceballs likes to, hilariously make fun of, and a lot of other things make fun of it as well. It's really reminiscent of 2001: A Space Odyssey, which where A New Hope got a lot of its ideas from there, and also Seven Samurai, Akira Kurosawa. But I really enjoyed A New Hope. You see pretty much there's a struggle between the good and the bad. You have the rebels and you have the Empire, and pretty much what you're seeing is Han Solo, Chewbacca, Luke, Leia, R2-D2, and C-3PO are up against this unstoppable force. My camera died, and I'm going to talk a little bit about more Star Wars Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back. So yes, my camera just died, but Empire Strikes Back, that's what we're talking about. I was really obsessed with Hoth. Like I said, when I was growing up, I always put the VHS in, and honestly just watched that scene. But obviously the entire movie is just this epic build-up from the last film, New Hope. You see all these characters grow up. You see the characters develop a little bit more. You see C-3PO and R2 getting more messes. C-3PO literally gets in a big mess. He gets diced up a little bit. R2 always in the forefront of danger. You see Chewbacca and Han getting into trouble as well. They visit Cloud City, their old friend Lando, who actually sold them out to the Empire, and Boba Fett takes Han Solo after he gets freezed in carbonite. But you see in between that an epic struggle between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, and this is what to me makes this in cinema history, and also just one of the greatest twists of all time. If you don't even know about it, I mean, to me it's something that everyone should know by now. But if I ever have a kid, or God forbid like a niece or a nephew, I will show them Star Wars without telling them anything, and then they're going to watch the original trilogy, and then when they get to this part, I want to see their face. I want to see how they respond to this. And that is obviously that Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father, which is one of the greatest cinema twists in history. I'm actually upset that I didn't really recall this when I was younger. I'm pretty sure I was just spoiled to me, like most people. And to me, that's something I love about cinema is I constantly look for something to be surprised in. And that's something that I think this franchise did very, very well, or at least Empire Strikes Back. It adds a lot more weight to this epic tale that, for the most part, most movies that are just Hollywoodized or just put into a big screen don't really have much character development or weight attached to it, nor does it have something that makes people